The T100 Triathlon World Tour is right around the corner. The start lists have finally been released. Let's dive into the men's preview. I'm going to run through all the athletes who are racing, go through the race, swim, bike, run, make my predictions. Let's go. Now, I wanted to try and visualize how I think through triathlon races in my head, and how I sort of imagine that would be having one of those big like touchscreen TVs that football analysts use. Obviously I don't have one of those, and I don't have enough money to buy one of those, so I'm back with my big pad of paper, and we'll see how this goes, but hopefully it makes sense. Let's get stuck in. Anyway, so start with who's racing. So the PTO, they've signed 20 athletes. So for the men, they've got 17 of their contracted athletes racing. So who isn't racing out of those athletes? So we've got them all here. Start with Martin van Riel. So he's off. He's racing WTCS Abu Dhabi as he chases his Olympic qualification. Probably won't see him for the first 4 T100 races, and the first one I expect to see him at is the T100 in Ibiza. Unless he doesn't qualify for the Olympics, then we might see him sooner. The next one is Frederick Funk. Now he's decided to start his season a little bit later, so I'm assuming we'll see him in Singapore. And then the last one is Max Newman. Now, he had an injury-plagued season last year. He could be in the shape of his life, or he could be crocked up in bed in a plaster cast, and most of the world wouldn't know. For one of the best triathletes in the world, he's the most off-grid, and there's probably a very small circle that know what kind of shape he's in. He could be following a similar strategy to Ashley Gentle and sort of avoiding some of that long-haul travel, so expect to see him in Singapore. So with 3 slots open, we've got 3 wildcards stepping in, and the first one is Yuri Kulin, PTO ranked number 18. He was 13th at the European Open last year and 6th at Clash Miami, so he knows this course and he's raced here before, as well as 6th at 70.3 World, so he's shown he can compete at this level. He also finished the season last year with 2 consecutive wins, beating several names on this list, so he could be a real threat in this race. The next one is Mino Koolhaas. He stepped up from short course in 2022, and this will be the first race over this distance for him. He finished 10th at 70.3 Worlds last year, as well as winning Challenge Almere. And the third wildcard is PTO ranked number 20, Gregory Barnaby. Now he probably has one of the best resumes of these wildcards. Top 10 finishes at the US Open and Ironman World Championships in Nice last year. So he's shown that he can compete at this level over the 100k distance. So with these 3 added, it means there's 16 of the top 20 ranked athletes racing, which is pretty crazy and more than we had at all last season. Okay, so moving on to who the race favorites are, who I see them as. It's very early in the season, so you don't know how athletes have trained over the winter. Some will have been targeting this race, but some will still be building fitness, using this to ramp up their training, so won't be in shape to compete. And because it's the first race of the season, we don't know where any of the athletes are at. So it's a bit of a guessing game of who's looking good in training and who isn't. And then something extra to keep in mind is looking back at previous seasons, who's always started the season well and is hitting the ground running, whereas who needs a race or 2 to get up to speed. We can look at those trends and who sort of gets off the line quickly to see who might perform well in Miami. So someone that comes straight to mind who's performed well early in the season is Jason West. If you look back at the start of last year, he won here in Miami, so again, he knows the course, can race well in these conditions. And then he also raced really well in Oceanside, beating several of the names on the start list, but obviously lost out to Leo Berger in that race. Then an extra one is Mathis Margier. He raced really well early last season, several podiums, and then won Challenge Champs as well. So he's another one to keep your eye on, who could be coming into the season and trying to capitalise on other athletes who aren't as fit as they could be later in the season. Now moving on, Sam Long is one of the only athletes to have raced so far this season. So he might be a lot more race ready than any of the other athletes, which could give him that slight edge over his competitors. And then you've got to consider who's raced well over this distance before. And obviously Magnus Ditlev has 2 podiums, one from the US Open in 2022 and then one at Ibiza from last year. He is a serious threat over this distance. And if you've watched that Sweat Elite video, you know he's been putting out big numbers. So he's clearly one of the favourites coming into this race. And he could kick off his season with his first win over this distance. And then just a couple of the sort of the top tier names. Sam Laidlow, obviously returning world champion. He's already said that he doesn't expect to be really in contention in these races. He's still building up fitness. but he'll definitely be involved. Front pack swimmer, really aggressive on the bike. He may surprise himself where his fitness is at and could feature a lot in the race. So I think splitting those favourites into tiers, definitely in my top tier, and Magnus Ditlev and Jason West, I think they're the clear 2 favourites for this race. And then maybe slight outsiders are Matisse Margier and Sam Long. Now, just touching on the course, and I haven't really seen any course maps that have come out, but it's Clash Miami. It's going to be a similar course to what it was last year. So they swim in a lake in the middle of the track, and then the bike course was made up of part of the NASCAR track, but there's also a road circuit that cut into the middle. Now, depending on who you speak to, this can be described as really technical or not too technical. Some people have talked about they were able to go around the corners while still in the aero bars. Some people felt more confident on the drops. Obviously, Lionel Sanders crashed here last year. Wonder how many times that will be mentioned on the broadcast. And then the run follows a similar route where it's pretty flat, it's going to be fast. I think the thing to note is the conditions could be tough. We've seen athletes struggle in the heat here before, so it's something to keep an eye on. Okay, so now onto the race, and obviously start with the swim. And this is where I was talking about trying to visualize how I think through triathlon races in my head. So I've got my paper here, and we're going to split the athletes through into the different packs. So front pack, chase pack, second pack, and then if there's a third pack, we'll put them in there. The men's field is absolutely stacked with front pack swimmers, and the best swimmer in triathlon is in the field. So obviously I'm going to call him out first, and that is Aaron Royal. So he is the #1 ranked swimmer for a reason. He's led out 4 of the 5 T100 races that he's done. The only one he didn't lead out was the Canadian Open, where he actually had his best result. He hasn't been able to match that level since then, but he is consistently in the top 10. And next we've got Alistair Brownlee, consistent front pack swimmer. Presumably he's going to be very aggressive on the bike. You don't really know what version of him you're going to get on race day, so the big question coming in will be, what kind of shape is he in? Could he really challenge for the win here? I think his tactic of pushing the limits and really testing out the athletes, it sort of lost its touch. Until he can prove that he can do it again, it's not going to work on anyone. Then we've got Javier Gomez. So he returned at the end of last season after months and months out with injury. He'll make his debut over this distance, but again, similar to Alistair Brownlee, we don't really know what shape he's in. He's had several DNFs already this year, so we might not even see him finish the race, but if he's in shape, he could definitely feature in the race heavily. Then we've got Ben Canute. Now he really struggled the rest of the 2023 season after his podium in Challenge Roth, and he hasn't really excelled over this distance. He's only had a top 10 finish in one of his 5 PTO races. Not really sure what to expect from him here. It's early in the season. He has performed well in Miami before, so that could play to his favour. Just move these down slightly. Next we've got Rudy von Berg, and 2023 was probably one of the best years of his career, despite having a setback with an injury that kept him out sort of through the middle of the season. But he raced 4 times and topped it off with that 4th at the World Championships in Nice, and also winning Florida to end his season. He hasn't really focused on this distance and hasn't finished better than 20th the 2 times he's raced it, but he came up racing middle distance, finished on a podium at the Ironman 70.3 World Champs, so he's shown he could really compete at this level. So it'll be interesting to see what he can achieve if he is focusing on this 100k distance. Then we've got Daniel Bakkegaard. Now he was super consistent on these T100 races last year. He finished in the top 7 of every single race. This is still below where he wants to achieve and where he sees himself, but he finished the season with back-to-back wins, so he'll be carrying that confidence into this season. And like Canute, he's performed well here before, so we could see him take advantage of that early season form. And next we've got Rico Bogan, 70.3 world champion in his first pro season. Not bad. You saw in Lahti when he won that world championship, he is an all-round triathlete. He really has the skills to feature in this series, so you should watch out for him in this race. Next, we've got Sam Laidlow, another consistent front pack swimmer, and we could see him pushing the pace along with Aaron Royal. Again, like I said, he's been managing expectations for where his fitness is at, so don't know what version of him we're going to get, but he's typically very aggressive, so you could see him pushing the pace on the swim and then attacking on the bike. And then the last front pack swimmer I've got is Mino Koolhaas, our first wild card that we're drawing out. Like I said earlier, he came up through short course, so he's going to be at the pointy end of the race from the gun, and he'll be used to racing this kind of level of racing coming up through WTCS. Now that's a pretty big front pack. We've got 9 athletes there. If they get strung out, they're going to stretch back quite a long way, and if the pace isn't hot, you're going to have the likes of Ditlev, Hemrick, West, all trying to jump on the back of their feet. So the front pack are going to need to be really careful not to let those athletes jump on get a free ride through the swim, and then be further up the road than they would have if they didn't make that pack. Now, in this second pack, I've got Jason West. I've already talked about him as one of my top 2 favourites for this race, and he finished his season last year with 2 short course races, which he put some time into focusing on his swimming on. So it'd be interesting to see if that has carried over and he's been working on that across the winter. What level will his swim be at? Because that could be a huge factor in this race and across the whole series. If he can consistently start swimming front pack, that would be huge. But for now, he hasn't proven it yet, so I've still got him in this chase pack. Next, we've got Magnus Ditlev, the best cyclist in triathlon. There's a short list of people that can follow him if you come out of the water with him. So if you're not ahead of him out of T1, that could be your winning contentions over. Next, we've got Matisse Margier, another really strong cyclist and someone I could see riding with Ditlev. He had a breakout race at the US Open last year where he bridged up out of the water, so expect to see him do the same here. Next, Gregory Barnaby, our second wildcard in these swim packs. And I've already touched on him, but we saw at the US Open last year, he worked quite closely with Weiss and McNamee, so we could see that little trio coming through the field together, swim, bike, run. Next, I've got Peter Hemrich. Now, he's possibly one of the most underrated triathletes in the world, sort of under the radar, snuck into 5th in the PTO rankings at the end of the year. He showed in Singapore that he can perform really well in the heat and the humidity, and that will definitely translate across to Miami. He'll want to stay close to Margier and Ditlev because, again, he showed his biking prowess in Singapore, so we could see him try and follow them and ride through the field. Also in this pack, I've got Bradley Weiss. Now, he's definitely considered more of a long distance athlete, but at the US Open last year, top 8 finish, he's shown he can mix it up over this 100k distance. Next, we've got David McNamee. Again, another athlete that's sort of traditionally thought of as a long distance athlete, but last year he finished top 11 in all the PTO races, so he really established himself over that distance. Okay, 2 more in this chase pack. I've got Clement Mignon. Again, another one who's traditionally performed better over the longer distances. He hasn't cracked a top 10 yet over the 100k distance, but has top 10s in Kona, Nice, and at Ironman 70.3 Worlds. Now, the last athlete in this chase pack, Yuri Kulin, our last wild card. Now, he was clearly disappointed not to get one of the T100 contracts, but he's raced here before. He'll be looking to prove a point, so definitely someone to watch out for. Okay, 2 athletes left who would definitely be swimming towards the rear. In this, I've got them sort of roughly together in this second chase pack. So the first one is Leon Chevalier. And I won't lie, I was surprised to see him pick up this contract. I thought he would have been the favourite to win the Ironman Pro Series. However, he has had success over the middle distance before. Last year he won 70.3 Les Sables ahead of Pierre Lecour, and Chevalier had the fastest bike and the fastest run of the day. So clearly has the ability over this distance, and it'd be interesting to see if he's focusing on this for the first part of the season, what he can achieve. And the last athlete is Sam Long. With 2 top 5 finishes in these PTO races in 2023, you know he's going to be up there in every single race. Yes, he'll have a deficit out of the swim, but we've seen him bridge up these gaps multiple times. Let's see if he's made some progress on the swim over the winter, but like I said earlier, I think he could be one of the most ready for this race, having already raced this season. Now onto the bike. This way you need to think through who the aggressors are, who's going to try and sit in the pack, who's not as strong on the bike, so might slip backwards. We'll start in this front pack, and this is where we see if this sort of layout actually works, but the sort of aggressors that come to mind in this front pack, obviously Brownlee, so we'll move the aggressors to the front of this list, Brownlee, and then Laidlow, depending on his fitness. And then we'll have to see where Gomez slots in. You can sort of imagine him getting carried away. Him and Brownlee had some great battles in the past, so maybe they'll go try and attack off the front together. The rest of these athletes, I'd say particularly sort of Canute, Royal, Bakkegaard, they eventually dropped off the front if the pace is being pushed. So it depends how hot that pace is on the front and if these front few athletes are really being aggressive. And it may take until Ditlev rides up to the front that they drop off, but I do see them sort of not being able to stay with the pace that's being pushed at the front. So we'll just move them back slightly. I think obviously Bogan rode front pack in that 70.3 world champ, so maybe he is one to keep more of an eye on. But Koolhaas, he is weaker on the bike, so I don't think he'll be able to hang with that front pace. And then looking to this chase pack, so we've got Ditlev in there. Obviously, he's going to be charging through, so we'll move him up. And then I think closely followed by Margier and Hemrich. I think they're all going to be coming through potentially as a group, so we could see them work together, but you've got to imagine Ditlev's going to be driving that pace along with Margier. Now, it could take them a bit of time to catch the front, depending on the deficit they have out of the water, so it could be somewhere between 20 to 40k that they bridge up. So I'm going to move Ditlev, Margier and Hemric into that front pack. I'm going to move Koolhaas, Von Berg, Bakkegaard, Royal, Canute and Bogan down. Okay, so now talking about these athletes that haven't really moved up from the chase pack, they haven't been able to hang with Ditlev, Margier, Hemric. So I think we'll start to see them move backwards in the field. So I think in that I'm putting Bradley Weiss, Clement Mignon, David McNamee, and maybe Gregory Barnaby as well. I think we've seen Weiss, Barnaby and McNamee sort of hang together in races before. I'm going to keep Yuri Kulin in there. And then just looking back into this second pack I had before, so Leon Chevalier, Sam Long, two very strong cyclists, they're going to be moving through the field. Now it'd be interesting to see if Chevalier can hold on to Sam Long if we see them come out of the water together. So obviously Long and Chevalier are going to start moving through the field. Long is the better cyclist, so it'd be interesting to see if Chevalier can hold on depending how close they come out in the water. Chevalier might come out slightly ahead, so we could then see them ride together. So now moving back to the front of the race, assuming Ditlev, Margier and Hemric can sort of caught the front, you're going to see Ditlev move to the front after he's taken a bit of rest and start to apply the pressure. So Ditlev and Margier, I think they move to the front. Laidlaw and Brownie might not be able to resist that attack and go with them. And then maybe Hemric and Gomez can't quite handle it. They drop off the back, but still somewhere between this front pack and chase pack. Then in this chase pack, Long and Chevalier, I think they'll catch on. They'll probably bring Kulin with them, and they'll start to make their way through this chase pack, which could start to become a bit spread out. Koolhaas, I think, will continue to drop back. Like I said, he's not the strongest cyclist. And I think Long, in particular, Chevalier might not be able to ride with him the whole time, but Long will make his way to the front of this chase pack. So I think he'll catch Canute, Von Berg, Royal, and Bakkegaard, and probably someone I've missed is Jason West. We'll see what level his bike is at this first race. He'll definitely move backwards and he'll probably find himself in this group with Weiss, Mignon, Barnaby, McNamee and Koolhaas. So not in that chase pack with some of the stronger cyclists, a bit further back. Like I said, we'll have to see how Jason West rides. Has his cycling improved over the winter and see what form he's in coming into this race. But he'll need to keep that gap probably within 2 to 3 minutes to still be in contention for the win. Obviously we've seen him run sort of 4 or 5 minutes into the athletes, but that would be an exceptional run if he can do that again. Okay, now moving on to the run. So this is the sort of rough position I see athletes coming in to T2 in. So Ditlev and Margier at the front, probably followed by Laidlaw and Brownlee, and then obviously Hema and Gomez a bit off the back. Now I think Ditlev and Margier are going to be the ones pushing the pace, and I think that'll continue on the run. Obviously we could see Brownlee like trying to attack early on, but I think that's become effectively worthless for him. Unless he does it in one of these races and it pays off, nobody's going to see that as a threat because they're just going to see him blowing up. Ditlev and Margier, you're going to see pushing the pace. Brownlee and Laidlaw, maybe they've pushed too hard on the bike. Not going to be sure what kind of fitness they're bringing to the race, so I think they'll start to move back. Similar with Gomez, he's obviously an excellent runner, but we don't really know what shape he's in after he's DNF'd his last 3 races. I don't know if we've actually seen him on the run yet. So looking back to this chase pack, who are the strong runners in there? So obviously Bakkegaard has been incredibly consistent over these 100k distance runs. And something I should have mentioned earlier is, yes, he falls off the pace on the bike, but he knows his limits quite well. He'll drop back on the bike, but then he'll come charging through on the run. So I think we'll see that again here. So I'm going to move him. I think he'll come through ahead of Laidlaw, Brownlee, Gomez and Hemric. So I'm going to move Bakkegaard into that front pack. And then the other one there obviously is Sam Long, one of the contenders for the race. Again, another really strong runner, and he's tended to get the better of Bakkegaard. Okay, now obviously the other big mover to call out is Jason West. So he's going to start running through the field, coming up through this second pack and through this chase pack. So I'm just going to shift these down. I think there might not be too much movement among this sort of backpack. They might end up running together and pushing each other to the line. Jason West is going to come through this group of Royal, Canute, Von Berg. I'm interested to see what Rico Bogan can do. So I think he potentially might get the better of sort of Canute, Chevalier, Royal. And I'm just going to move those ones back into this second chase pack. And then, like I said, I think Laidlaw, Brownlee probably going to fall off the pace, and similar with Hemric and Gomez. Now we're getting in deeper into the run. West is going to continue making his way through. I see him coming onto the back of Bakkegaard and Long, and then we're really into the fight of the race among this top 5. So I'm just going to get rid of the rest of the field. I'm not going to do predictions 1 to 20. These are the 5 I see battling it out. I think Bakkegaard and Long, maybe outside challengers for the podium. West is definitely going to come through, so that narrows it down to 3. And it'll all come down to how big that deficit is for Jason West coming off the bike. Ditlev is typically a better runner than Margier, but they're both excellent runners. And I've flip-flopped between Ditlev and West and Ditlev for who's going to win this race, but I just need to make a pick. So I think Ditlev's going to have it on the bike, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that sort of that 3-minute range will be enough to hold off Jason West. This is a fast course on that track, even though it's got the technical bits. So I'm putting Ditlev first, I think go Jason West in second, catching Margier. So Margier makes the podium. I think Long's going to get the better of Bakkegaard again, and then Bakkegaard will get 5th, which I think will be his best PTO finish. So there we go, that's the T100 Miami men's preview. Gone through the race, swim, bike, run. Let me know how you think it will play out. Let me know your picks down below, and I'll see you back for the women's preview.